From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher, and their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher, and our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. Their mission: to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Grass Roots in Training Podcast. I'm going to be one of the hosts for this episode. My name, Bill. Who else is hosting?
Vicky.
And you are. And we are. And we're on Garage Heroes in Training Podcast. And we have a guest and a surprise guest. We have a guest who was the reigning dude that I need to talk to about seemingly everything. Whenever I go to a paddock, they're like, you need to talk to. And finally, I figured out how to get to him, and we did. He is a welder to be envious of. He is the head janitor at his establishment, the founder of 9 Lives Racing, and also, in quotes, the Aero dude. It's Johnny Cichowski. Johnny, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me.
And the person that he invited onto the podcast from Grass Roots Motorsports, prepared to get run over by Johnny throughout the episode or until he can't take it anymore. Totally surprised, probably still has goldfish with him. We have Tom Suddard. Welcome, Tom.
Hey, thanks for having me. And, 2 minutes of notice is plenty for a podcast. So I can't wait.
We had somebody on before and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm digressing. I'm like, that's what podcast should be named.
Sorry, I'm digressing.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. So we have a podcast. We deal in endurance racing at a fairly low level, but we are definitely bad at intros. So if you guys could give an introduction to yourself, could be family, could be professional, could be racing. Why don't we start with the least prepared of the crew? Tom, what do you think?
Geez, this is tough. So, one part of the very small team that makes Grass Roots Motorsports magazine every month, and Classic Motorsports magazine too, our sister publication. And I have a dream job. I get to go to the track and play with race cars every weekend, and then write about what we're doing. So it's awesome. And there we go, short and sweet. Johnny, on to you.
I think my job is just being envious of Tom mostly. But what we are an aerodynamics company that specializes in very well thought out, very, let's say, put through the rigorous products in aerodynamics, but we put an extra twist on it by trying to use obscure manufacturing processes to bring costs down. And basically you can get same level of quality as, as a top level team can get, but for a fraction of the cost.
And you do one of these weird things where you actually test your product and show that it performs, which is sadly missing in most of the fellow autosport people.
We test it to failure. Like, I am not happy until we break it. So that's usually what we're looking for on those things.
Now, I'm not saying we have a center of expertise, but if you need stuff broken, you just send it our way. It'll break.
Well, I am friends with Tom, so I mean, he does pretty good.
I've broken your stuff before. You've broken my stuff before. Everybody wins.
That's right.
I remember, I think the last time I was involved, we broke a plywood splitter and you had a spare. And last time you were involved, you totaled a Miata. So
no, I didn't. I did crash it twice, but I didn't. I was not the one who totaled it.
How many times do you have to crash its $500 car to total it, Johnny?
No, I was there the day it got totaled, but I was not in it.
That sounds like a story that shall remain nameless for a short time. We'll see what we're doing.
Yeah, throw back into that one. That one's good.
Exactly. So you guys are both involved in racing. You both are, usually we say what's your professional life outside of racing, but somehow you've managed to make your professional life involved with racing. So do you guys have any dreams or bucket list items you guys want to get into left?
Well, my goal is, so you always got to have a goal.
Absolutely.
And if you're not reaching them, your goals aren't high enough. And my current goal is to be on the Le Mans car. And then once we start doing that regularly, it'll be to win. So, but yeah, the current goal is to get onto some kind of program, some Aero program where we've consulted on a team that's going to run Le Mans. So we're getting close to it. I got a couple invites before COVID hit, which was nice, but once that happened, that kind of allowed that stuff to solve. But we'll be back in the push for it.
Well, if you're willing to mispronounce that word, we can help you with that, but that's a different story.
Right.
So Tom, what about you? Any bucket list items?
Man, I already kind of have. I mean, I'm kind of already doing all the cool stuff I want to do, but but bucket list item, I'd love to win a national championship in something somewhere. I'm not asking to win the Rolex 24 or anything like that, but some kind of club level championship would be cool. I'm not the end of the world either way, but it always looked like fun. And the people who win always seem like they really, really know their stuff and they're great drivers and all that. So the path there will probably be a cool story and should be a lot of fun. So I'll get there eventually.
Awesome.
So now that COVID's over, do you guys have a race schedule for 2021?
We have a messy group chat where we just keep sending dates over each other's heads and then end up putting it off until like a week before we actually book anything. Is that a race schedule?
That's true. That's very accurate.
Pretty normal race schedule.
So you're trying to work it around your normal schedules?
Yeah, I mean, Johnny, I don't want to speak for you too, but it's amazing how we've managed to turn not a job at all into a real job, but we still find ourselves at real jobs all the time, which is kind of annoying. So
yeah, I think the quotes, I work 80 hours a week to avoid a 40-hour job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think we're doing the WRL event at Road Atlanta in July, but I don't remember the exact date even, but I know I got to go drive north at some point here in a couple of weeks.
Is that
Am I driving to that one?
Yeah, you're registered.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you need a license. You should be good to go. So you'll be fine.
That's how busy we are.
Yeah.
Just tell me a day before I need to leave. That's all I need to know.
Well, I live here. I live 7 minutes from Atlanta. I got my gear, so we're good.
I was talking to one of the other team members a couple hours ago, and he goes, so there's a test day Friday. So I got to do like engagement photos that morning, but then I'll just like drive up after or hop on a flight, or I'll have her drop me off at the airport and I'll be there. So we should be good to go. And I'm not going to try and give him advice. So I just said, okay, great. See you at the track. Hopefully he makes it.
So we're committed to getting people onto the track and get them interested. I mean, that's the whole concept of our podcast, is just to let people know that it's really not difficult to get into racing. There's always, your, what's the best way of putting it? Your gateway drug. And then you just kind of build from there. So what would your advice be for people who want to get into something like this, to get into it?
Probably would be just don't wait. There's absolutely no reason to hold off for any reason. There's a lot of people I see that are always very concerned about, oh, I need to get this part, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. My first venture into racing was just wandering on an autocross track after I saw it running one day, and it started my entire career. At that time, I was a lost kid that had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and so I just wandered onto a racetrack. So just go for it, show up, talk to some organizers and see what you need to do.
I definitely second that. I mean, everybody's always, what tires do I need to buy? What car do I need? Everything. I mean, go rent a Kia Rio and go to an autocross or do a track night in America event and just have fun in a stock car, and make some friends too along the way, whether that means, meeting up with some people on Facebook or Instagram or the Grass Roots Motorsports forum ahead of time to get a community together and figure out what event you're going to go to. But I mean, bring whatever you have, as long as it has 4 wheels, borrow a helmet from somebody, just do whatever the closest, cheapest, most accessible form of motorsport it is. I mean, even drag racing, go drag race a few times, meet some car people. One of them will take you to an autocross eventually, and you'll end up back in our world. So just start doing it, and then you make some friends. They'll point you in the right direction, and the rest is history.
So, do you guys have a general race philosophy that you have when you're personally racing, and about getting into it or just being in it when you're racing?
So
You want to go take it, Tom, or should I?
I'll take it. I'm in a weird position because one of the cool things about, doing what we do at Grass Roots Motorsports is every story is different. So, one story, I might be a broke college kid with a Ford Focus rally crossing and working on it on jack stands. And then the next story, we might be building, a NASA TT2 car. And, jumping back and forth between the different worlds, it's challenging for sure, because on one project, you'll be, installing a $2,500 dry sump, and on the next, you'll be pulling, springs out of a junkyard. So basically every time we go to do a new race effort, we sit down and we write out who this is for, what the goal is, what the venue is, and then we try and stick as closely to that as possible. Personally, I really like I like, Johnny's form of racing, trying really hard, trying to have all your ducks in a row, being the fast guy at the track, and being, the person everybody walks up to in the paddock to ask to borrow tools and advice and everything. I always enjoyed playing that role. But Johnny, what about you?
So my philosophy, I guess you could say, has always been win at all costs.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You're one of those guys.
If it's been,
second place is first loser.
Right. I remember that. I keep referring to that Windy City Miata Club autocross that I did as a kid. And I can tell you, like, getting the second place trophy, I used to get those things and be pissed. like I did not want them. So it's always been, Tom's more the prepare guy, and I'm more of the dig in the detail guy. I'll find out why you want this kind of brake pad. I'll find out why you want this kind of wing shape, and really push into like, okay, well, what if we change a little bit? Always asking the what if question and just trying to develop my craft as much as I can, because I just found that insanely interesting. It keeps me up at night to just try to think about something like that. So mine's always been a push to performance more so than anything. And not to discredit Tom at all, because I mean, if you show up unprepared, you might as well not show up at all. But that probably would be our philosophy a little bit different.
Okay.
A little bit. But same.
Yeah. And I always thought, luck is preparation. Luck had happened when preparation meets opportunity. And yep. I guess because I grew up endurance racing, I mean, I think you're way more likely to win an endurance race if you remembered every spare and have good checklists and good procedures than if you're Johnny and made sure your wing was 100%, was optimized to 105% and the absolute best profile possible. Yeah. So it's, yeah. But we complement each other well on a team. I'll say that.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm very excited about getting into this because we have issues. Some issues and team challenges on this
podcast if we go through all our issues.
Yeah, no, this is not therapy, but yeah. Okay.
Very well.
Let's start this off, Bill.
So we have an amateur aerodynamicist on the team who has an obsessive compulsion.
Your team.
Yes, our team.
Okay.
Obsessive.
Yeah, stop calling Johnny amateur. He's been doing this a couple months now.
No.
Well, at least a week.
He hasn't affected our team yet, but
I am the janitor too.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's on your Instagram profile. It must be real. And so he's got an obsession with adding aerodynamics, and by obsession, let's talk about the aerodynamics of a Chevy S10, shall we? But anyway.
Yes.
So,
because I've done that.
Well, unfortunately, we have to several times.
Yeah.
And the proper placement for the rear wing on a Chevy S10 is not on the roll bar right behind the cab. But anyway, so just to get everybody on the same page, because we deal with a lot of people who are relatively new, I thought we'd start off with the various items and their function, and then we'd work into what they actually do. So when people talk about a wing, some people will talk about a spoiler, some people talk about, when they're talking about a wing, what are they typically referring to, and why would you use one?
So a wing as opposed to a spoiler, and I hear those two terms getting mixed up quite a lot.
True.
So a wing is a more referred to as like an airfoil shape. Your traditional airplane style looking like wing. and that is generally placed on top of a pylon that sits up on top of your trunk lid, or in me and Tom's case on the Fox, on top of the front bumper. And it is a aerodynamic aid that manipulates the airflow over it to create lift. So whether that's pushing, if you have it faced one way, it'll create lift like an airplane does, or if you flip it upside down, it'll create downforce, like in the use of our race cars. Now the flip side of that is a spoiler, and the spoiler generally mounts on top of the trunk lid, and sometimes it's flat, sometimes it's a little, like think of like the 1990s Chevys always had spoilers, and they're kind of like a wing S shape, but it's it works in an opposite way of where it creates a high pressure on top and a low pressure behind the car. And it uses that high pressure area to create downforce and pull itself down. So the difference between the two is they both can make downforce, and the spoiler will make a substantially larger amount of drag as opposed to the wing. And I think that probably get us a few people nodding off already.
Not yet, because
no, not at all.
All right.
I've got even more. So end plates on a wing are useful for.
So end plates on a wing.
The main reason you want a big end plate is you want to bonk your forehead on it in the trailer when you're unloading.
Yes, you got to
absolutely. Yeah, the aerodynamics guy will always be the one with the bloody forehead at the driver's meeting. So you walk up to him, answer all your questions.
Right. That's industry wide, just to let you know. So an end plate will, so as the air flows over the top of the wing, the high pressure air will want to get to the low pressure air. And the bottom of the wing makes the low pressure, top of the wing makes the high pressure. That high pressure air will want to bleed off and get underneath that wing, and it will basically make the wing stop working on the outer edges because it can just kind of run itself over. An end plate trips that wing up, the air up, keeps it up on the top side, keeps the low pressure on the bottom side. And then they can also have an advantage of creating a venturi, or a vortex, I should say, on the edge of the edge of the wing, and that can also help pull more air out from underneath the wing. Because remember, downforce is all about speeding up air underneath the car.
Right, and so you're getting rid of end effects and potential turbulence.
Yeah, that's a whole science of itself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. What about? We're still on wings, people. We haven't even dug into anything else yet.
Wangs.
If they get big enough, they go to wangs. Yes. What about top-mounted wings versus bottom-mounted wings?
Mostly internet height. So it does help. It does help if you put the mounts on the top as opposed to the bottom, because the bottom of the wing is what makes the downforce. That being said,
Johnny, you got to put in the buzzword here. Come on, what do you call them?
Swan neck.
Oh man, can I give you money right now? That sounds amazing,
bro.
Please.
Let me get that. So it's so the swan neck mounting, you put it on the top. It's kind of the rage right now. Everybody wants it, but in our testing, it's shown a 6% increase in downforce on the Miatas. That being said, the end plates showed almost 10%. So if you upgrade it to a nice set of end plates, you can get away with even more performance than doing a swan. Swans can have a little bit higher drag because the mounts are sticking up in the air. And trying to think what else. And end plate mounting is better than all three. So if you can absolutely end plate mount a wing, that is the absolute best way of doing it. It's the lowest drag, most downforce you'll ever get. But tops, Swan's second and the bottom's third, but it's not really that big of a split between all three.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So the front air dams.
Yeah.
Explain all that, because that's kind of what we're dealing with right now.
So air dams are
there's lots of dams about air in our team, but that's a different story.
So are you guys racing the Miata?
We have a Miata, but we're the center of the argument is the Chevy S10 pickup truck.
Yeah. We'll get into that story. It's a back and forth story all the time.
So the background story on air dams was from Miatas, because there was a lot of CFD work done on air dams. This is predating us by probably about 7 or 8 years. So there's a lot of work on it, and it showed a lot of improvement on the Miatas to make really good front downforce. It was a really nice addition. Less drag, more downforce, great thing. And that's because the Miata has an undercut bumper. You know, it kind of looks like a torpedo.
Yep.
And that undercut picks the front of the car up. Now, if you don't have that undercut bumper, then the air dams really don't do much for you. So everyone I talk to, guys with S2000s, they want to put air dams in their car. I'm like, just don't do it. You know, like if you have a Miata, it's a great idea. If you got an undercut bumper, Triumph Spitfire, you know, something like that, then yeah, do it. It's a good idea. But if you got Chevy S10 where it's just a brick and all flat in the front, it's gonna be pretty much the same no matter what you do.
Well, but an S10 is 8 feet off the ground, so there's an argument for an air dam.
Well, it's a mini truck, right?
Yeah.
Just
It's lowered too, so
keep cutting. It'll get lower.
it goes down.
Yep.
So Vicky gets confused between an air dam and a splitter, and what each does.
So air dam is just a flat thing on the front. Think of like a big semi's bumper. That's like a big air dam. A splitter is the flat thing on the ground that's horizontal to the ground that sticks out of the front of the car.
Oh yeah, I've seen those.
So
Right.
it's parallel to the ground.
Yes.
Right. So that's a splitter.
And
And then-
what purpose and how does the air flow off of those?
So the air dam is to send the air around the sides of the car. It's basically the idea of it. So the air hits it, splits the air, goes around the sides. The splitter kind of hits the air dam. The air will then stop, and the splitter is encouraging the air to go up, which if you can grab that air and send it upwards and get it out, that means the air underneath is going to go faster. And then when the air underneath the splitter is going faster, that means it's going to make downforce. And so having that big flat thing down there with a bunch of fast moving air underneath it is going to pull the front of the car down. So an air dam might not necessarily make downforce, but a splitter will. So that's you're just kind of doing it more to air dams get more drag reduction than anything. Splitters more downforce addition than anything.
Okay. So what about canards?
Or canards.
The dive planes, canards.
Canards.
So what those do is kind of a 2-tier thing. So they grab the air and then they kind of kick it up and away. And it creates low pressure on the front of the car. And it helps. What they really do is it really helps pull the air out of the wheel wells. And that makes the splitter work better. And so it's really what it's doing is more splitter work than anything.
Johnny, it might be worth mentioning how infuriating it is that every single aerodynamic element plays off of every single other element, and why how quickly this gets complicated and how hard it is to say this piece does X.
Right, exactly. So what affects an aerodynamic part the most is the part that's in front of it. So if you have a canard that's in front of something, if you have something in front of the canard won't work. If you have clean, fresh air getting to it, then it's going to work. So it's this big, like diffusers that go in the back of the car. Like getting one of those to work is a nightmare because it doesn't like you can have one built in CFD and make it work great, but if you change your hood emblem, it could change the flow to that diffuser. So it's a big deal to try to keep clean air going to things and trying to keep a really nice flow going. It's this topic is really deep really quick. So I'll let you guys know.
Vicky's starting to glaze over. She's
I'm not glazing over. I'm trying to absorb.
Yeah.
Because
osmosis that just
there's a chain reaction, it sounds like.
Yeah, we really should have this conversation with everybody's hands out the window.
Yeah, right.
So you can experience it while we're doing it. Mm-hmm.
So is there any other weapons in front? Anything else that might?
Oh yeah, we do everything in the front. Try to get front downforce. You can get curved splitters. You can
hood vents are worth mentioning.
Hood vents. Wheel wickers, and splitter end plates. It it really comes down to like what you're looking for and everything else.
Well, and
the back's a lot easier.
And that's before you get into 3-dimensional splitters where you can, instead of, which that's a whole nother,
Oh yeah, we'll get super confusing.
All right. Okay, so that is the basic definitions of what we're going to be discussing.
Right.
Okay.
So unless I'm wrong, we're trying to get the optimal solution to a multivariate equation where we're trying to balance the factors of downforce, drag, and weight.
Well, and you also have stability to worry about too, because you can make a ton of downforce with little drag sometimes, but it's in the wrong place.
Yep. So you have to balance the balance.
Yeah.
And balance the weight. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and that's the 9 lives. We got it down pat. We do this all day long.
we do it. We just don't do it right, I don't think. But that's part of our.
You heard about the story of the '69 Challenger? Was that the Daytona Coupes?
Well, just in case.
The Challengers.
Just in case.
So the story goes with those. The guy who did the bodywork design on the Challengers, the 69 Hemi Challengers. He was a huge fan of aerodynamics. The bad part was he was terrible at it. So everything he did that tried to entice the aerodynamic flow actually made the car slower. And so it's one of those things where you could be a huge fan of it and just going the way wrong direction constantly.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
Yeah.
So let's pretend that we're like let's call it a grassroots racing team. See what I'm doing there for you, Tom?
Hey, I love it. Keep it coming.
So we're a grassroots racing team, and we don't really have a on-team aerodynamicist, but we want to play one on TV.
Okay.
Is there stuff we could do or should do, or is there somebody perhaps named Johnny that we should call to get some advice, or should we just wing it and it'll all work out?
Great. I'll cut Johnny off here and speak outside my area of expertise. That's my specialty.
Let's do it.
First step is read the rule book. Any series where somebody has run aerodynamic elements before, they'll have a fairly well-developed rule book from everybody trying to find loopholes. And that rule book will usually be a fairly good recipe for at least what an ideal aerodynamic setup looks like. So that'll usually prescribe splitter, length, distance, how far it can extend, angle, all that kind of thing. And I would just basically use that as a template to build your splitter if you don't have better information to go on. And then as much wing as you can fit, assuming it's balanced, and then go to a couple test days and see how it feels. But Johnny, tell them why I'm wrong.
I'm going to say you're wrong. And I definitely disagree with that, because most of those guys, most of the rules are done in a closed room with a bunch of people with a fresh class going, how do we do this? And it's not a whole bunch of testing involved. So you should watch out for that. It is a good idea to do, like, if you're a grassroots team and you're kind of looking for the surefire shots, splitter and wing. It's really hard to get away from that, splitter and wing combination, because the splitters, even poorly made ones, can make some good downforce. And the wings are the same way. You can always just bolt those two on and start your journey there. It's just those are the easy buttons, I'll say, before you start getting into dams and canards and any of that other stuff.
Okay. So I guess we're going to get to, we have an audience question list because they found out you were coming and they just bombed those questions. So I think, besides, hey, that looks cool, or hey, I got one.
Yeah.
Testing should really be involved with this. I've got an engineering background, and is there a way to do the testing? Because most of us don't have our own wind tunnels to go playing in. Is there something we should try to do, or something we shouldn't do, and just straight line equal corner?
The easiest way to test is just to show up and go drive it around. And what you're looking for there, just to see how the car has changed in driving. So if you drive the car first before you do the air, before you put the Aero on, and put a wing and a splitter on it and see how the car's changed. So if the car won't turn anymore, then you have too much rear balance. If the car is super loose and trying to kill you, then you don't have enough and you need to put more wing in it. So that's probably the easiest way to test. Then second and third testing is start putting little tufts of wool. Those things usually are telltale signs of a lot of clean flow and things like that.
Like Johnny, move your head to the other side of your screen a little bit so I can see the front of my car. Yeah, I took it to the track with that setup with no splitter and the big rear wing there. And it was real neutral up to about 60 miles an hour. And then once it got going faster, things started pushing like crazy, just tons and tons of understeer. And that's how I knew I needed more splitter. I mean, I also knew that because he told me, hey, you're really going to need a splitter. And I didn't have one done yet. But it was like a really good illustration of, okay, this is how you can tell I have way, way, way too much downforce on the back. I need to balance it out with more downforce on the front, or by taking angle out of the rear wing to keep the car neutral.
So my idea of scotch taping yarn to the car and driving it around is not totally wacky.
Not at all.
Nope.
That's a great idea.
Okay.
And in theory, you can also you can put zip ties on all your shock shafts and then do a very, very, very gentle acceleration on a straight road with no corners. And that should, by measuring basically suspension stroke at each corner, you should be able to see how much downforce it's making at certain speeds. But if you're going that far, odds are you have better data acquisition than zip ties in a straight road anyway. But
and not all of us live in Florida, Tom, where there's nothing but straight, flat, no
you guys
bumpy
have the
roads.
Midwest. Come on, there's something in that. You just find a cornfield, drive through it.
You've never been to the Midwest. I can tell that right now.
Okay, so if I can do that, is straight line going to be sufficient, or do I have to have a turning component into the testing regime?
You can do straight line on that. So if you're doing the tufts of wool, what you're looking for is that the tufts of wool lay down in the direction of the wind. If they lay flat or they start spinning around in circles or start going the wrong direction, that's telling you that there's flow separation in that area, and anything behind it is not getting any contact. So it might be good, like in the back of your S10, that back windshield. I suspect the tufts of wool are going to be spinning like crazy. Yeah. But sure, what you'd want to see is like tufts of wool on the wing to be laid down flat. So that would tell you if your wing is high enough, or any of that kind of, see if the turbulence from the windows is getting into the wing or anything like that.
And in theory, you could use them to figure out diffuser angles too, to figure out where it stalls, right?
You could, but diffuser delamination is usually more of a wheel and tire issue. So like a tire is mixing up the air that's getting the diffuser. So it's kind of like that's tough to tell, because then you got to map out what tire is causing the flow mess up, and how are you going to fix it? Because like on my car, my diffuser wasn't working until we added some walls in front of the front tires to pull the wheel wake off the front tires out from away from the diffuser, that kind of stuff. So like I said, everything in front is more important.
We forgot about the easiest way to see how your car behaves in the wind. Drive it in the rain. Like as soon as it gets dirty and wet, it's really easy to see where the air is moving around on it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Anybody that asked me, I got pictures from our test with the Multimatic Mazda, where it was raining that day. So it was free flow viz. So you can just snap pictures and see how everything was just flowing over the car.
World's cheapest smoke machine, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Vicky, you going, or you want me to? Okay, she's on mute, but that's fine. Anyway.
Sorry about that.
So,
okay.
So is there like a general rule of thumb when it's time to add, whether it's too soon or too late? Is it by the type of car, the horsepower, the top speed, the driver, or is it, whenever you get the fascination, you just start throwing it on there. And it seems like you could waste a lot of time and money doing this prematurely or especially doing it wrong.
Our 90 horsepower Fox dropped a few seconds a lap with a giant wing on it, and that was with a fairly soft suspension and fairly mediocre tires. Aero
tell them
always
about the
helped.
power. Tell them about the power.
What power? I'm still looking for it. That was a year ago.
You dynoed it after that race. Tell them how much power it had.
A 90 at the
No,
wheel.
it wasn't that high.
It was actually.
No,
yeah.
It was like that was after you did like the ECU or something. It was
No,
like
it was 90, but it fell off at 4,000 RPM.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
It was a powerful video in spite of the car's lack of power.
Yes.
Oh, I'm still waiting for that Oscar, but they told us if we had a rabbit, it would have been an easy sell. But oh well.
You've got time. So basically, put it on if you got time, or
Johnny's not going to like this part, but you got to figure out when it will help is a different question than when it's the best use of resources for the race effort. Sorry, Johnny.
No, I think best use of effort of resources, I guess you could say. Like on the Miatas, we can drop 3 to 4 seconds a lap. So if you're, with the stock powered Miata, so if you're looking for 3 or 4 seconds a lap, then it's time to do it. If you're still going out and just putting around and, trying to develop your own skill, then that's what you're trying to do. Right. So it's kind of, what makes sense for you is what makes sense for you. So go out, drive, rule number 1. And then when you're ready to go fast, give us a shout.
Okay. So I guess once you're at the point where your driver improvement, I guess, is in that range or less, you're looking for more capability with a standard, or not standard, with the same car. This would be a logical next step.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with. And Johnny, I would argue that an aerodynamic package can mask bad habits at the high speed parts of a track on a car that generates lift from the factory, which is most.
Yeah, I think
would say if you'd never driven a car without a splitter and wing, and you suddenly hop back into a car that makes lift at 100 miles an hour, that could be a little rough.
Yeah, I'd probably go with you on that one. Learning how to tame something that gets really light at speed is, you should know why you're gentle on the steering at 160.
Right.
That should definitely be a thing.
Yeah.
And then you should know why you're relieved when you don't have to do that anymore.
So, how does this addition change the way the car feels to the driver? I mean, ultimately, yeah.
I'd say it mellows everything out, is how I'd describe it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
that's
it just, right. You don't have to tiptoe around things as much. It's just more forgiving. I don't know, maybe Johnny, you've spent more time in cars with more aero than I have, but that was my impression.
Yeah, it just I've never made a car faster in all my years of motorsports. I've never made a car faster by making it harder to drive. Right. So it didn't matter for my time at PFC when I was setting up championship winning cars, or my time here. Our goal is to make the car easier to drive, because if it's easier to drive, the faster you can drive. And so, as a driver, the way I would explain the feeling of being in a mild aerodynamic car would be, it feels the same at 60 as it does at 160. And what I mean is, when you start getting really fast in a car that lifts, you got to really be light on the steering. Because otherwise the cars want to fight and spin you and stuff like that. And once you have an aero car that creates downforce, and it tames that, now all of a sudden you can handle it the same. You're driving. You don't have to change your driving style for the speed you're going. You can just drive it like you normally would.
So does it increase the rate of suspension or tires?
So it should make your tires last longer. and it should compress your suspension a little bit more.
Okay.
Tom and I did a story a couple months ago about
They
aerodynamic
all run
lift.
together. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, it might have been last year.
Yeah.
About how cars create lift naturally. Like his Z car makes a lot of lift, and like our Miata downforce kit makes 300% more downforce, but 200% of that is stolen by the body's lift. So your suspension should stay pretty much the same. Maybe get compressed a little bit. And our Corvette kits, our medium downforce kit on the Corvette at 150 compresses the suspension a quarter inch. So it's not a lot. It's not like something you have to put big heavy springs on a car for. You know, but yeah, you can, it'll move it a little bit.
Okay. Cool. So, what would be the priority or the order of operations of aerodynamic features? I mean, you want to start off with
wing first.
Johnny, I would say clean up, drag, and low hanging fruit first. I mean,
I'd say wing first. No, it's yeah. I mean, drag is death by 1,000 needles. So it's not like you're going to go into the car and find like this gigantic source of drag, unless it's the radiator.
But my argument though is how many Miatas and E30s go to the track every weekend missing the factory front under tray, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah, and that was kind of the point I was getting to before you interrupted me like a jerk. But
that's what I'm here for. Hey, you invited me with no notice. You knew this was coming.
It's so
door. Yes.
But yeah, like your radiator opening, is 30% of your vehicle's drag. So working on that area, you're going to find a lot of drag there. Yeah, I mean, I walked through a paddock in the spec field, and I'm like, "What are you guys doing?" the TT6 crowd, where they're not really allowed to have much aerodynamic stuff. But I'm like, "Why do you still have your mirrors?" And they're like, "Well, what do you mean?" And I'm like, "That's a huge, like your frontal area is your coefficient of drag. And your mirrors are all frontal area that can just go away." I'm like, it's a huge source of drag. Get rid of that, that kind of stuff. Put the little pig spotter mirrors inside the glass there, and you'll still be able to see.
Yep.
But yeah, so yeah, finding drag is always good. And then why I was saying wing first more than anything is if you do a splitter first, the car gets very uncontrollable. All your aero balance is in the front. Your back tires will just want to dance around. Having a wing in the back settles the rear down. And if anything, it just makes you push a little bit. It's much more forgiving to drive. And that's why it's like, do a wing first before you do a splitter, because I don't want to see anybody getting hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the next would be the splitter, I guess.
Yeah, wing and then splitter. The splitter just complements the wing, lets you put more wing into it, lets you get more downforce out of the whole thing.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about the wing in the back and the different mounting options, but I've seen wings in the back that are mounted to the deck lid. I've seen wings in the back that are mounted straight to the chassis. I've seen them mounted forward more towards the rear window, and I've seen them all the way back almost onto the rear bumper. Does any of that matter, make a difference?
As long as it doesn't move.
Okay.
That's what matters. Like if the wing starts moving around, like if you got it mounted to like a really floppy trunk, that's bad. Okay. But then there's some trunks like Tom's wing on his 350Z, like that thing's solid as all get out. So
I pushed the car from the wing. It's like a GT3 team.
Yeah, and that's trunk mounted. So I wouldn't even bother putting a chassis mount on that car. That kind of thing. And then as far as the placement for forward and aft, that just moves your leverage arm, which is kind of like a more technical. We can get really muddied up in that, but it just moves your leverage arm of your so it moves. You have to kind of connect the wing to the tire to your center balance, and so you can kind of move your center balance rearward by moving your wing forward. Okay, that makes you can move your balance rearward by moving the wing rearward. So the more you move it back, the more you move. So, and that's kind of more of a science all of its own.
Let me just try and see if I can. So you've got the vertical plane where the center axis of your wheel is, and then how far back the mounting center of force would be is how much the lever arm should be.
Yeah. I'll just push it around.
And it's worth mentioning that the wing and the lever arm doesn't care what the mounts look like. I mean, they could do a loop-de-loop or, mount on the roof or mount on the back of the bumper. What matters is where the airfoil is in relation to the chassis.
Yeah. Thanks for boring us, Tom.
So if I have, that would be the angle of the, I don't know, would they be legs on the wing?
Pylons.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I have a large rake to the back, is it the contact point to the car that matters, or the contact point of the air?
Just the location of the wing.
Okay.
To that tire is what you're looking for.
Okay.
So you can, like Tom said, you got big loops and
right.
Make it look like a ice cream cone.
I mean, technically, you could mount if you could cut the aluminum, you could mount the wing to the front bumper and have it still right over the deck lid there, and it would be exactly the same as mounting it to the deck lid.
Correct. Which someone
and that's a dare, by the way, Johnny. Yeah, I want to see that. Come on.
We should have tried that on the Fox.
The Fox had a front wing, so I mean,
yeah,
what could go wrong?
Yeah, that thing was great. I love that front wing.
It was a safety improvement, as thin as that car was.
Oh, yeah. That was such an experiment, especially for myself, because we've been working so heavily with like front engine rear drive cars. I haven't worked with a car with that bad of weight bias before. Like that, what was that, like 80% front?
I remember you and I picked it up and wheeled it around the shop like a shopping cart.
Yeah, like two people could pick up the rear end. And so we didn't do anything to the back. We just put a big wing on the front because you want to match your aero load to your weight load. And that's how you build a really balanced race car. And so I'm like, man, we should just put a big wing on the front, and a big bumper. And that's what we did. And we could just kept putting more wing into it, like putting more angle into it. And the car kept going faster and faster and faster. Like, I'm like waiting for us to hit some point of drag, slow the thing down. I'm like, oh, like, wow, this is really eye-opening moment right here. This is pretty cool.
So that was one of the questions we had written in. We're almost there. A front wheel drive car. Do I need a wing in the front or the back or both?
Yes. Well, speaking as a man who sells wings, I'm going to say yes to all that.
More wings, better.
As a racer, you can get away with a lot of big, splitter improvements. I tested a nose wing on my Miata, and it wasn't a bad feature. It kind of disturbed the airflow to the rear wing quite a bit. But it, you can get a lot of work done in just trying to get, just working on the front splitter. You can get a lot of work done doing that. And then like a small wing in the back to tame the rear end down, because there's not much weight back there.
And yeah, a lot of people talking on the Fox, they kept saying, oh, the front wing makes sense because it's front wheel drive. It's like, no, drive doesn't have anything to do with it. It's just front wheel drive. Right. Cars are often nose heavy. So that's why you put more downforce up there.
Correct.
But, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, basically just weight bias.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the most common aero misconceptions?
Besides the front wheel drive needs a wing in the front because it's front wheel drive.
Oh, I get this question a lot and I always forget it. Tom, you go first. I want to hear you on this one.
I get so frustrated when I see three-dimensional wings, like the typical, like I'm not going to name any names, but carbon fiber wing where the outside will be at one angle of attack and then it'll kind of curve up in the middle to a different style. And they make sense in very limited applications when you have a wind tunnel or a lot of CFD time to match the wing to the exact airflow over the car. Mm-hmm. But when you buy it on eBay and put it on your Civic, you're probably doing more harm than good. And you should probably go with a fixed, what's the technical term for your wings, Johnny? Normal wings, boring wings? I don't know.
2D.
Fast wings?
Quiet wings.
Simple wing.
We call it two-dimensional, where it's just
there you go, two-dimensional wing.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I think there was a lot of, or has been a lot of marketing around those 3-dimensional wings, and they've shown up at a lot of places, and you can find them cheap on eBay, but probably half the wing isn't doing anything. And whether it's the inside half or the outside half depends on how you mount it.
Right. And then, and not to bust on twist wings, because we make a twist wing too. It's very, very expensive. It's not on the website, but it's, so to not botch them too much, but I can see the construction and a lot of them that are commercially available being completely backwards. We when we build a twist wing, we put a more aggressive profile in the center of the wing because it's the air in that area is moving slower. And then we relax it out on the outside edges because the air over there is moving faster. So it helps. So the air can stay attached to the center of the wing better. And a lot of the stuff I see online is backwards. They have the really aggressive profile in the fastest air, and then they have the really calmest profile in the slowest air. So it's kind of like, I'm looking at these like, oh, like, come on, you were so close, but you just completely missed it. That kind of stuff. So it's always frustrating to see.
When you copy your design from a Zoom meeting and you don't realize that the picture's inverted, you get these things, I guess.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So biggest misconception I get, I know it, matching power to downforce. That's probably my biggest pet peeve. And it's fine. It's an objection I have to handle, and it's something I do well. But it's you don't need to if you have 1,000 horsepower, you do not need this specific kind of wing. That just remove the idea that downforce and horsepower are any way linked. What's linked is your weight and your downforce. That's what you need to match, not your horsepower. Horsepower doesn't matter.
Is speed a variable in that function or no?
No, lift to drag never changes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Well, if you're talking about when a wing's effective, but I mean, E-mod autocross cars have really, really effective wings. They just have a different angle of attack and profile than something you'd use at 150 miles an hour. So, I mean, Johnny, what is it, 20 or 30 miles an hour when wings start to work, depending on how you design the wing?
Oh, yeah. When I was a lowly single employee at 9 Lives, I was carrying a wing out to a customer at a racetrack, and I realized, I'm like, man, this thing feels really heavy. And I realized I was walking into the wind, and so I flipped it over, and then it felt really light. And I'm like, another eye-opening moment right there. I'm like, oh.
I'm not sure I believe you, but that's a great story. You should put that on the website.
I will. Next time I see you, I'm going to make you hold it.
I'm going to go unbolt the wing from my car and point it at a fan.
I do it. I dare. I guarantee it. Go for it. You got a 71-inch wing. You'll notice it right away. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I don't weigh that much. So, yeah.
We'll tie you down.
That's right. All right. So one of our audience members decided to have the most technical question that we have on this podcast. So I apologize ahead of time, Johnny. It may tax you.
I'll try to keep it entertaining. I promise.
They want to know what happened to the first 3 guys in your logo.
It's a really lame story. So I tell everybody, you know how Batman's scared of bats?
Yeah.
It's like that.
It's like that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, on a team that's named Garage Heroes in Training, and since we do all our cars as superheroes, we like that story.
Johnny, you want to tell them about how popular your stickers are with Mustang owners?
Yeah. When we first introduced our S197 wing, which is our first Mustang wing, we sold like 3 wings, but then like 50 stickers. Like they found the stickers, the little dead guys, and I was like, man, where are all these stickers going? And I ran into a guy that was like, hey, oh yeah, thanks for the stickers. I bought like 10 of them. Like, why? He just put them all over the front of his car. Like they would use them kind of like the World War II fighter planes for shooting down enemy aircraft. They would do that, but with as if it was people they were running down, like crowd control. I'm like, oh, all right, I guess I'll take it.
So
it's a victory.
we had an audience member write in. They had a request. They wanted a wing, a specific wing though. They wanted a wing that was useful for cars and coffees that they could put on Mustangs. So when they're pulling away, they don't go into the crowds and wreck the Mustangs. They needed a wing like that.
So it just needs to be heavy.
Yeah.
Like
could
concrete.
Yeah,
we could put just cinder blocks in the trunk and then just put a wing on top, a normal wing on top, and it would do that.
Okay. That's what it is.
Anything.
Okay.
We could fill it with lead.
Okay, so maybe we did have a technical question. We have a team that they're talking about vortex generators on the back roof edge. They had an engineer run calculations to find out how many, how high, and how far apart. And after they did all this, they began to wonder if it really going to help the wing at around 100 miles an hour.
It might not.
Is it a car is it a car where the air detaches going down the back glass?
Right.
So
what kind of car was it?
I believe it was a E36 or an E30.
Maybe it might help.
Yeah, on an E30, I could make an argument for that.
Yeah. Okay. So everything that we do is, unless we've tested it, is a maybe.
Okay.
Because it might help, it might not, and I've never been a part of any. I've never been a part of anything that's humbled you so much, because you'll be like, "Oh yeah, that'll definitely work. That'll absolutely work," and then you test it, and you're like, "Oh, it doesn't work."
And Johnny,
or
the reason I'm optimistic about it working on an E30 is because on the E30 M3 they put in a different back window and C-pillar to make it a more gradual angle, because the air was detaching and not feeding the rear wing well enough. So that's why I'm saying yes on that E30.
And E30s are like little bricks.
Yeah.
They just punch hole in the air, like a big one.
If I have my teams correct, the other choice it could be is like a WRX car.
Like a Subaru?
Yeah.
It might work. It might be good.
Didn't SCI come to the factory with them for a little bit?
I think it did.
They had like a little air diverter on the back. The Evos had the Evos had vortex generators.
Yeah, that's what it was. You're right.
Yeah, which we tested on those too. But yeah, it always depends. And when in doubt, put your wing higher.
Okay. Oh, there's something.
There you
go. Okay, we had a question come in that puzzled me deeply until I realized it was a typo. They were asking about home pilot tubes, and I believe they were talking about pitot tubes. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. I've never said it. I've just read it, but PITOT, not PILOT. Do they work? Do they do anything?
Oh, pitot tubes?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So what a pitot tube is nothing more than probably like a 1/4 inch interior diameter tube. That you bend at an angle, and it just meters your air pressure. So you can use it for basically just data collection. You see it on the front of all the C8 Corvettes. They have lots of pitot tubes on the front of their car.
We really missed an opportunity on the Fox, because I had extra brake tubing and glue.
Yeah, but but we didn't have any data. You're just gonna hold your thumb over it and be like, "Oh yeah, it's pushing a little harder now." Like,
feed them all into the driver's mouth so we can tell.
Right? Yeah, just driver cooling.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, it's for collecting data. So yeah, they'll work for your data collection. It just depends on where you put them, and that kind of stuff.
Okay, and the last one, aerodynamically related, was what is the value of venting either the engine area or the wheel well area, specifically the front wheels mostly? But they were wondering if that of, if you were to prioritize the operations where you would add a splitter after you add the wing, would this fall in the less important, or depends on the car, I would assume? But so
I got to be careful on hood vents, because I get in a lot of trouble with hood vents. But I'll answer the wheel well thing first. So putting a little wall in front of the tire kicks air out and away from the tire. And it's different from just kind of like shielding the tire or making your air dam stick out over the tire a little bit more. Because it actually is a wicker. And what a wicker does is the air hits it and it kicks off the side. And then that helps draw more air around it. So putting those in front of the tire usually always helps the front splitter.
Mm-hmm.
In our testing, we've seen a pretty good performance gain almost every time. So those are always a good idea. And then hood vents, I get down on hood vents because of they're for engine cooling.
Okay.
And if a aerodynamicist and an engine guy ever thought about anything more in the world, it's about cooling the motor, because getting the air, that air opening is 30% of the vehicle's drag, and letting it air out the top has a tendency to kill the performance of the wing. So a lot of people put a hood vent in and then realize the car gets loose and they're like, oh, I got more front downforce, I can put more wing into it. When really you're getting more, you're getting less downforce off the wing. So do they make front downforce? Yeah, they can. We've seen 30 pounds, 40 pounds out of them make front downforce, which is good. It's not an amazing amount.
Mm-hmm.
I personally run without them whenever I can, just because it's cleaner. But if you got a car that overheats, then you need them, and you should put them in your car. I think C5 Corvettes always overheat and they need them. So that kind of stuff. But yeah, so if you own a hood vent company, don't yell at me. Or you're very loyal to one. I'm not saying that they're terrible things that should be thrown away. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying
you could say that they're often installed in the wrong spot, but that's a whole new can of worms.
Yeah, I'm not getting into that. I'm already tiptoeing as best I can.
So more for heat management and somewhat for aerodynamics, but maybe they contribute to lessening the effective aerodynamics of the rear.
Yeah, well, they disturb the air. Anytime you kind of turn the air into, think of a slushy or something like that, the fresh, clean air has the most effect. And any chance it starts getting whipped up, now all of a sudden that air is having a hard time making downforce because it's all chewed up and spit up. It's kind of like putting your hand behind the mirror. Mm-hmm. If you're sticking your hand out of a window,
right?
Up in fresh, clean air, you can feel it push on your hand, put it behind the mirror. It's all dicey back there. You're not going to feel the same push.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think we have badgered you enough with our somewhat inane Jeopardy questions.
No, I always love answering questions and helping people go faster. It's something I've done my entire life. It's whether it's been helping somebody with tools or just giving random advice. It's just something I like to do. So you're welcome.
Well,
ask me anytime.
We do appreciate it. We may bother you again in the future when we can come up with some better questions, or when we dig deeper and find out that we thought we understood and really we didn't have a clue.
So, yeah, I wouldn't mind getting some advice. Our truck, the El Jefe,
the trophy truck.
Yeah, it is a complicated piece. And I honestly, I don't think Aero really works for it because of how it is built.
It's got lots of features. Let's go with
I'll say this. Aero is where you will have the most to gain.
Yeah. But we're only partially aeroed. So we have an air dam, but I think we need a wing to counter it. But there's no place to put a wing on our particular vehicle.
You need some tunnels is what you need.
It's a stake side.
Big tunnel right through the front of the car, all the way to the back. Like big tunnels.
Like the Batmobile?
Yeah.
Johnny, are you ever a good influence?
No.
Yeah, I don't know what that means by tunnels, but okay.
Just big tubes all the way through the truck.
Step one is saws out the floor. I don't think you want those.
No, not the floor. Right from the front to the back.
Right through the frame.
Yeah,
not a problem. Yep. Won't affect us at all. So I think
you have to jump over them when you get in.
I think part of our Aero issue is the cab on an S10. It's a 2003 required an exoskeleton cage. So the cage is outside of the cab.
I'm not an aerodynamics guy, and that just hurt my soul.
Yes.
And
But then you mount the wing on top of the back bar of the exoskeleton cage,
which does nothing.
Well, it does slow us down
way
on
high.
straightaways.
Build some
way
4
high.
foot long pylons off the rear down bars.
Yeah. We just did an S10 for a level 7, which if you've ever seen level 7s work is beautiful. They do some fantastic work, and they built an S10, and take a look at that one.
All right.
Yeah, see,
Now we
their
got some
S10, I'm sure, has a bed in it, but ours does not.
Ours is a steak
That's all right.
side.
The wing's high enough; it won't matter.
Make it bigger. All right. So sounds like wings. Bigger is better.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank
Very
you.
well. All right. Thank you, guys. Tom, we need a Grass
Thanks,
Roots
guys.
Motorsports sometime.
Hey, always happy to come on here.
Great.
Yeah, can I badger him on his podcast?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Deal.
why not?
Tom,
But you get 2 minutes of notice. I mean, we got
That's
to
right.
keep it fair here.
Oh, I don't need any notice. I'm good. I'm always ready to rock.
the odds on getting Johnny pinned down again in my lifetime, not very good. Thank you, guys.
No problem. Thanks,
Thanks for
guys.
having me.
Dominating with Dawson.
Okay, Ben.
Wow, that's the best intro ever.
No. Okay. Hi, Ben. How are you?
Here we are.
Hi,
Okay, Ben.
Hi, Ben.
I saw Ben.
So,
Try again.
hi, Ben. How are you? Hi, Ben is here. Ben's
I'm
here.
doing great. Let's get-
Ben's
get
doing much
faster.
better than this intro. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Ben, I got issues.
Tell me.
I'm
And
right
I-
here.
And I need, okay. My
Somebody
husband
getting
can't.
tub time.
Yeah. So this is like a legit problem that I have. Ways to avoid coasting and staying on throttle until the breaking point. This is the bane of my existence. This is such a bad habit to break, and I need help. I'm thinking part of it is courage. Part of it is just perception.
Yes, totally.
Perception of what's at the end of the track and how close those numbers
Trust.
actually are. Trust.
Good
I
trust issues, Vicky.
I have a real hard time. I'm having a real hard time breaking this. It's just part of it for me is courage. What are some of the techniques that I can use to break this habit and get beyond this mental wall that I have?
Oh man. Oh
Well,
well.
Ben Dawson wouldn't know because he's never had a mental wall when it came to racing.
I ain't no thinking.
gonna
I'm
say.
racing.
I was really gonna say. I mean, it sounds like you have a sense of self-preservation. So I'm not sure I can help. I mean, it sounds like you're pretty normal. These are things that you'll overcome more and more with seat time. I mean, I know that for sure when I started racing karts and I would see guys running the track and just like barely blipping the throttle going into turn 3 and barely blipping the throttle going into turn 1. Like, how are they doing that? Because I was having to let off a lot. I didn't trust the tires to hold me in the corner. But eventually, I ended up running that track flat out because my car was so old and flexible that I could run it flat out and keep up with the guys who are having to blip the gas. But I had to learn to trust the tires. I mean, it takes some trust to be able to, like, all right, I'm going to run this thing wide open. And for me, that just came with time and building a good context for what I could expect, this vehicle, whether it was a cart or a car, to do with this tire. That's one thing. I think you have to build some good expectations and build up a level of trust. But also, I was driving and even had been instructing for a little while and thought I was pretty good on road course stuff, but I didn't know how slow I was until I put a transponder in my car and started doing time trial. I realized, like, I need to make up a few seconds here. I'm not as fast as I was. So I'm sure I was doing some of the stuff that you're talking about in that scenario. But one of the things that spurred me on to get faster immediately was competition. So, and I know you guys have been competing, but one of the things that drives me to stay on the gas, brake for the least amount of time as possible, and get right back on the throttle without coasting. I don't want that guy to catch me behind me, and I want to catch this gaggle of cars up ahead of me, and shut them down, put them behind me. So part of it is I've been doing it forever, and part of it is I just want to go. So I'm always trying to figure out, how can I get back to the throttle sooner? How can I get this wheel straightened out so I can match the throttle and just come out of this corner? I think it comes down to building trust and confidence. I think it comes down to the drive of competition and me just going, screw that dude, he's not catching me. Screw that dude, he's not faster than me. I'm going to eat all these guys up. So that's part of what's driving me is I'm just like, I'm going to, I'm just sort of driving along like I just want to rain fire on these people.
With an evil laugh.
There's a lot of evil laughter in the car, but I'm trying to think of what some things are also going to be sort of training yourself with just the timing of it. When you just have to time your beginning of braking, your end of braking, where you're starting to turn in with where you ideally want to be starting to reapply the throttle. So there's all this bravado stuff, there's all this competition stuff, there's all this trust stuff, but also there's a lot of precision where you just go like, I need to just get dialed into where I'm, braking at I start by braking at the 3, I start to trail off, as I pass the 1 and I'm starting to turn in. I want to be completely off the brakes and picking up the throttle, right before, right after the apex, whatever. It depends on what kind of corner it is, I guess, and kind of what your car can do, I guess I should say. It could be any kind of car. But so there's some precision and some rhythm stuff to work out there too. So if you're not feeling confident about exactly where to get off the brake, exactly where to come back to the throttle, and you're kind of just having to sort of feel it out. And there's some coasting time in there. That's could be a large part of it too. So some of this stuff is going to be solved with more and more seat time. One of the things that I think is the quickest way to do that when you're at the track is getting near somebody who's doing it faster than you are in similar equipment to you. So like, if somebody passes you that you think like, actually the guy shouldn't be able to pass me, I'm going to try to throw it, I'm going to try to throw a grappling hook on that guy and hang on for as long as I can, that could be a very useful experience. Like, oh my gosh, this guy in a car that's just like mine is braking here. So I've, at least for me, that's one of the ways I picked up time the fastest, is just looking at what other people are doing and right around me on track. Like, how did that guy pass me? We're both driving Miatas, and I know I got better brakes than him, what I mean? Something like that. So a lot of times I'm trying to apply some context to traffic around me. If somebody gets away with something better than I am, I'm like, all right, I'm trying that next time. It might pick up some time. So you're just, to me, the more and more we talk about these different track topics, the more I realize you're just trying to build a better aggregate all the time of what's happening around me. What can I get away with? What's this car going to do? What's my car going to do? You're just sort of always building a bigger and bigger picture of what's going to happen right before it happens.
Mm-hmm.
That's the more we talk, that's my thesis lately, is that you're just trying to build a bigger, better context that you can apply to your own driving and timing and, interaction with your car.
Okay.
Miss Jen.
So that's Vicky, do you have anything to say to that first?
It's like, it's courage, just moving past and not focusing so much on the driving as much as you're focusing on your competition and just kind of break through it. Maybe just take yourself out of yourself. In other words.
Well, I mean,
are you good with watching video? Are you able to watch video and go, okay, I kind of see what they're doing and I want to try that?
On TikTok.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's that straightaway. It's coming down that straightaway and just that perception of how much distance there actually is. And, for me, I think I just need to take, as Bill said, just one step at a time. Start at the 5 and then do, 4.5 and then do 4 and just still realize how much space you still have at the end. Right. It's just getting there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's something that, especially if I'm in the car with a student who's got a car that's got a ton of power and I just don't have any idea what to expect the first time we hit the end of a straightaway. Mm-hmm. I'll go, hey, we're going to break it to 5 this time. We'll work our way up. But, we'll start here. If you're parking the car and having to drive up to the corner, we'll know that we're going to go deeper next time. So that's sort of the in-car information I give somebody when they're trying to dial into like, all right, where do I really need to be braking? Like, I feel like we're braking and driving to the corner. Do you understand what I mean by braking and then still having to drive to the apex? Like, I got to get back on the gas or just let off the gas and let off the brake and let it roll down to the corner without doing much. Like, yeah, I know it feels weird because you let off the brake, like, I can't really get on the gas yet, but also not much I can do except for just steer to the corner, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a weird feeling. You kind of feel stuck there. So, that's something where you do have to develop your timing of your inputs. Where am I gonna come off where do I ideally want to be coming off the brake pedal and rolling back into the throttle, as I'm coming off the brake pedal. So that may mean that you need to adjust the timing of your beginning and ending of braking. If you've been used to trying to deep brake way down to this point to get into turn in, it was everything you could do to do your late braking, mm-hmm. and then get turned in what you thought was the right place for the apex, but then you got to kind of oh, and then roll over to the apex, and you haven't timed things quite right, because it's still the ideal that we want to have is you brake, get back on the gas. So I think Ross mentioned a couple of instances last time he was on about like, yeah, there might be a couple of situations where you need to kind of let the car coast or be in a maintenance throttle where you're not necessarily adding any speed, but you're carrying some speed with the throttle. But those are pretty rare. For the most part, the ideal is you're coming off the brakes, back on the gas, open the wheel, back on the gas.
And one of those instances is not on a straightaway.
Exactly. Yeah. So if we're still trying to figure out straightaways, one of the things to do is next time you have an instructor in the car with you, I think they still put instructors in the car at DE2,
yes.
right? And that's
yes.
So next time this is a great thing to work with a DE2 coach on, is to say like, hey, I'm pretty good at all the blocking and tackling. I can put the car where it needs to be. I got the DE1 stuff down, but I need some help with fine tuning my corner entry from beginning of braking all the way to where I hit the gas and stay fully committed to the gas. And so if you let that person know, this is what I like to concentrate on. With a good group like NASA Great Lakes, I would imagine they have an instructor who can help you do that. Not every track day group you can kind of give somebody that much detail, and the instructor they give you will be able to go, all right, let's do it. But I would think that a good group like NASA, that you could say, hey, let's work on this, and they can help you dial in your entries at that track. And the more you learn it for this corner, the more you go like, oh, I'm going to Sears Point this weekend. That looks like this corner over here. You know what I mean? You'll begin to build a bigger corner vocabulary. Like, oh, this is just like turn 7 at Road Atlanta, that kind of thing. So. So you'll find more and more commonality at a track. Like, I think I'm going to try to, at least the first time, I'm going to try to approach this the same way I do this thing over at the blah blah blah.
Right. Miss Jen, is this something you have difficulties with, or is Vicky?
Absolutely. The Apex Pro will show that.
Yes, it does.
As much as I improved over the weekend, it was all in the corners.
Yeah,
that's okay. That's all right.
So if you look at the data, Ben, the
easiest part of the track was not where I excelled.
Right. So it was very clear, because Vicky and I shared a car for Sunday. It was very clear that you could watch the speed tracing, which is the basically the rate of acceleration of the car. We would be the same. I was a little earlier to get the gas, but essentially they were parallel lines.
Right.
And then we got to about 90 to 100 miles an hour down the straightaway, and mine stayed in the same angle, and Vicky's went, it's
oh, you letting off before you even get to the brakes?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
What, dude?
I lift before I brake. It's a bad habit.
You're gonna have to have me in the car. I'm just gonna be in there driving it with my mouth for a while. Hey, do that. Like, you're gonna have
I know he's gonna be smacking my leg. He's gonna be smacking. Don't you do it? Don't you do it?
You need a drill sergeant. Sooner or later this year we're gonna make it happen. You need me in the car going, do it.
That's right. Don't you dare. Don't you lift that.
I posted a picture like of me riding with my teammate Reed and his E36 M3 that we're gonna race. And it was us coming down the backstretch. He's driving, and I got one finger up. We're like halfway down the backstretch, and that's me going, "You cannot touch the brakes until we get to the one." I'm telling him way up the straightaway. But I'm like, "You cannot touch those brakes until we get to the one."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, ladies, when you're going down a straight line and you're on a straight, just your foot needs to be parked on the floor until you're going to quickly switch to the brakes.
Yeah, I didn't even realize you were wanting me to talk about that end of the straightaway, like the part where you should be fully on it. Yeah, you stay matted until you're going to swap pedals. Like I'm doing this so you people can see it, but the podcast audience can't. This is your throttle pedal. It's down. Then when it's time to brake, it's like this. Yep. Off on. You're done with one, on the other. Like that's the transition you should work your way toward. Like it is on off at the end of the straightaway, and it's not the end of the world. Probably going to feel crazy the first couple times you do it, but also first few times you do it, nothing's going to happen except you slow down and make the corner. You know what I mean? I'm sure if you're letting off way before you even need to brake, you're giving yourself plenty of extra grip to get into the corner. So nothing crazy is going to happen. You're going to be totally fine.
And you can just
I
back
can't believe nobody's talked to you about this before.
we have, but it's in my tone of voice, so Vicky didn't hear it.
Have
sometimes-
issues.
Sometime for Bill, hey, we'll fix it. We'll get an NASA instructor to jump in the car with you and say, hey, help me time when to jump on the gas, and just say, hey, I want you to say get on, get off, brake. Like tell them you just want some really basic instruction, and they'll help you build a better rhythm and better confidence. You know, if just say I just need some help, I just want you to kind of just tell me, bam, bam, bam.
Bam, bam.
Bam,
You
bam.
can do it. You can do it. You're to a point where you can receive that in real time and handle it.
Mhm.
Virtually anyone except me.
This is known.
Yeah. I can't wait to ride around with all of y'all. It's gonna be so much fun whenever we
Well.
finally get to do that.
Well, you know what we'll be saying after that? We are now dominating with Dawson.
That's right. Wow.
That's right. You'll have some of my germs on you for sure.
No worries. All right, ladies, we got some work to do.
Yep.
Stay on it. Stay in it till you pull off the brakes.
And if you start the braking a little earlier than you need to, that's okay. Just work your way forward.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you know for the next time around. All right, I hit the brakes at the 4. Really ended up having to park it and drive it over to the apex. Let's try the 3.5. You know, you can give yourself. Nobody's saying you got to go from the 4 to the 1 or whatever. You know, just incrementally work your way up to what it feels right, because you know what doesn't feel right is letting way off and sort of rolling down to the corner. That's not feeling right too. That's why we're talking about it. So the next thing you do is just sort of keep, working your way forward. Yeah.
Garage Heroes in training homework. Time
We're
to go-
training.
We're doing more training. That's all right.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll just
That's
have
a
more.
good problem to have.
We'll just have more dominating with Dawson topics. No worries.
All right.
All right, we beat this one to the ground. Vicky, you got this. You're good.
I got this.
All right, Jen,
Yep.
you both lie.
Woo!
Both are liars. We'll see.
Somebody's like, I want to sleep in the tub all of June.
I know.
All
bas-
of June.
Basically, and it's
He's
the
working
second.
there. He's working his way there. I'm going to
Yeah.
throw a pillow and everything in there.
Oh, I get a pillow
Nice and
this time.
comfy.
Ooh, you get. She'll throw a pillow in. but-
made of concrete, like program pillow made of concrete.
Yeah. She'll just take all the washers out of the faucet. That would just get there dripping on me. All right. This is Bill Fisher signing off, going to the tub.
It's been nice, Bill. It's been nice knowing you.
Thank you, Ben.
You're welcome.
Blub, 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 blub.
Oh, there he goes. Circling the drain, like always.
That's right.
Circling the drain.
That's right. Welcome, sir.
Hey, thanks for the surprise Zoom meeting, or what? Are we on a podcast or something?
Yes,
We could
are.
be. And don't worry,
Look
it's
at
a
that.
surprise to us too. We were just talking, and he's like, "Oh, I've got a friend who works at GRM," and I'm like, "Oh, I've been trying to get those guys on the podcast for like 2-3 years now."
I'm like,
Hey.
perfect. I'll get them.
Happy to do it. Thanks for
Not a
having me.
problem. We might need to do a part 2 with you because I am not prepared, but I'm going to fake it anyway.
No, yeah, and I was just sitting on the couch eating goldfish, so this is way more entertaining.
Very
Happy
well.
to come back later.